Meredith standing by live at the White House with more. You know, Mark, Rudy Giuliani is a formidable presence. I first started covering him in 1982 when he was the mob-busting U.S. attorney here in New York. He cut crime as New York City mayor 2 terms, changed the culture of this city, guided New York through 9/11. He has put his heart and soul into everything he does, into his current mission. And he was even on with Maria Bartiromo this morning, despite this diagnosis of coronavirus. What is the reaction right now at the White House?
Eric, good afternoon. Well, I'm sure the president also sending his well wishes to Rudy Giuliani, somebody that not only people in New York know, but is known nationwide as a hero after 9/11. And of course, most lately as the president's strongest defender when it comes to the election legal challenges. The president broke the news less than an hour ago on where else but Twitter. This is what the president had to say. He said, quote, Rudy Giuliani, by far the greatest mayor in the history of New York City and who has been working tirelessly exposing the most corrupt election in the history of the U.S., has tested positive for the China virus. Get better soon, Rudy. We will carry on. As I mentioned, Giuliani has been one of, if not the most loyal defenders of President Trump. He supported President Trump for years, endorsing him back in April of 2016. He's a mainstay on cable news, as Eric mentioned, also making an appearance on Fox News earlier today. No indication then that he had known he was tested positive. He certainly didn't say anything about this diagnosis. We have not gotten an update on his exact condition, how he's feeling. We've reached out to him, waiting to hear back on that. But the president, in his own tweet, offering his well wishes. But Giuliani has also faced some criticism, as you see right there outside these state capitals, speaking to a number of people. He was in Georgia, he was in Michigan this past week without wearing a mask. There were a lot of people that would crowd him when he would go into those events. I was at the one in Michigan. Huge swarm of people that would be out there, but the former New York City mayor, the latest news there, testing positive for coronavirus. Meantime, the president keeping a fairly low profile today after that stop in South Georgia last night, campaigning for those 2 Senate GOP candidates, his first rally since last month's election. In his speech, the president said the stakes in the Peach State Senate runoff could not be any higher. Tonight, we are also watching what will be going on with the Food and Drug Administration. This week, it's expected to hold an emergency meeting to discuss whether or not to authorize Pfizer's coronavirus vaccine candidate, a vaccine that's believed to be some 95% effective. Today, we heard from the Health and Human Services Secretary Alex Azar, who says HHS is working hard to distribute the vaccine as soon as it's approved.
We're looking at a really historic accomplishment. 6 months from when, at the president's direction, I created Operation Warp Speed. We're looking at having multiple vaccines FDA approved and close to 40 million doses of FDA approved vaccine releasable by the end of this year.
The White House has made it clear it would like to see a vaccine approved sooner rather than later, urging the FDA to get to work. The FDA pushed back last week, saying that they needed this time to evaluate the data, so we'll watch that. But, Eric, as you were mentioning the news at the top of the hour, that Rudy Giuliani, the president's personal lawyer, somebody who's a friend to the Trump family and a well-known not only where you are in New York, but all over the country, testing positive for coronavirus. Many of us, of course, wishing him well. Eric?
So as I've shown you, it does appear that Rudy Giuliani has been diagnosed with COVID-19. Given the fact that this isn't necessarily a particularly dangerous virus, now that we know that one can survive with a 99.997% survivability rate for those below the age of 60, and people without pre-existing conditions, and those above the age of 60 and those within the realm of pre-existing conditions, such as Rudy Giuliani, have a 95% survival rate, we shouldn't be so concerned. I would like to posit a potential alternative. Rudy Giuliani is a phenomenal lawyer, as we can see based on his merits. However, his field of expertise is in the realm of crime and corruption. While there is an element of corruption within the 2020 presidential election, unfortunately, his legal team is seriously lacking in lawyers related to voter election fraud. It's clear to see to anyone paying attention at this point that there was a mafia-style coordination in relation to the voter election fraud this year. You can't just have a mafia-style lawyer who knows how to work with the mafia and catch mafia bosses. Unfortunately, they do need election voter fraud lawyers. Now, going back to my theory, I would postulate that this is an opportunity for Rudy Giuliani to be able to either leave or pull back his responsibility and presence within the hearings and within the cases overall. My personal opinion, this is by far the greatest election fraud in American history. There has been large instances of election fraud in the past, but this is by far the most egregious and most obvious. I do think the illegitimate Joe Biden will get away with it. I think he'll get away with it by the left screaming that we didn't take their voter fraud allegations seriously, so why should they take ours? I should point out that we did. We sat down and watched for 4 miserable years while they tried to impeach the president over P-tapes and claims that Facebook was used to change people's opinions to vote in favor of the president. But I digress. In relation to this case, at the very least, we will see a huge amount of fraud uncovered. What the American people choose to do in reaction to this fraud is up to us.
Wherever he thinks he can. And their response was to whack him and take him up to the appeals where they're not likely to win at all. And he just made that point in a very sort of real gentle order. He said, by the way, I can't really do a hearing on Friday because you guys chose to appeal it. And by the way, there usually isn't a right to appeal a temporary restraining order. I mean, he could have said that a lot harsher. So put it this way, the critics that see this as a big grift, who think they're just filing suits to look good but don't plan on being able to actually win, but want to make it look like they fought hard and then say the judicial system was corrupt, they're doing the kind of things that keep reinforcing that. So I don't think that's actually their objective, but they're doing the things that it's harder and harder for me to argue to that other side in defense of these cases, given these. Now, my view is this is the product of not having election lawyers, not having skilled lawyers who know that local area. And by the way, they were told this before they filed these suits. So this isn't quarterback second overnight, Monday night quarterbacking, as I think the phrase is. Monday morning. That's it. Monday morning quarterbacking. It isn't Monday morning quarterbacking. They were told this before. They were told this. They needed these people involved before. People had suggested to them their role probably shouldn't be lead litigator role. They didn't like hearing that, and so they marched on forward.
But ultimately, I do hope that we are able to overcome this. I'm still hopeful, and I have seen President Trump get out of stickier situations over the last 4 years. However, this is going to be a difficult one. And we should be preparing for the second phase of what we're going to do. And I'm not talking about waiting for another 4 years. We are being cheated out of an election. And for anyone that actually thinks that they will let another outsider with a populist message, with a legitimate populist message, enter and run at any point in the future, well, that's just insanity. Take it as someone who has lived in Venezuela and whose family is from Venezuela. Once they cheat so bold-facedly as they have now, they're in for life. Or at least until the fall of the American Republic. I truly hope people are taking that into consideration as they choose their next moves. We must be prepared. Now, this isn't me advocating for violence, because I can't. It's YouTube. I personally don't know what we should do, but I do know that we need to prepare those with more strategic minds than the common American public that sees the fraud but doesn't know what to do, they need to be making moves. They need to be doing something to fight back. And my hope is those with smarter minds are able to find a solution that doesn't lead to bloodshed or any sort of terror. Please make sure to share, like, and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video.